Mike.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing good.
Thank you so much for doing this. I'm super excited.
Of course, of course.
Sweet. Yeah, I saw you. You came. I'm in San Diego. You guys played at the Soda Bar, and you're touring with Wheatus.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I actually interviewed Brandon from Wheatus at the venue, and you guys you had just got there, like you guys just rolled into the venue, and it was cool. I just like saw you walking by, but I was like, oh wow, it's Mike Doughty.
Buttonholed him. That's nice.
Yeah, it was cool. But yeah, it was cool seeing Wheatus and then you later that evening. It was a great show.
Nice.
But yeah, so cool. Well, how about you tell me where'd you grow up?
Well, I grew up mostly. Well, my dad was in the Army, so kind of all over the place until the '80s, and then we were in West Point, New York, and I was there through junior high school and high school, and then I moved to New York at 18, to the city at 18.
To the city. And how did you get into music originally?
Oh, I mean, I just remember having this kind of deep feeling that it was really the only thing that I would ever be happy doing when I was listening to records. And I had no way of accessing it. I didn't know anybody that played guitar. You know, I was growing up on an Army post. It wasn't the most artistic community in the world. So I just sort of cobbled what little I could together from, you know, watching Rock School on PBS and, you know, a couple of things, you know, I don't even know how I figured them out. Smoke on the Water and, you know, Inagata Davida, Sunshine of Your Love, and the stuff that people just learn. But I mean, it was cobbled together by me from just whatever I could find. It wasn't like I was mentored into becoming a musician or studied at all.
Sure. Well, how old are you when you got the guitar?
15.
15. Okay.
It was the bass first.
Oh, bass first. So bass is your first instrument?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I played one string with a pick, you know, like so. I don't know if you could really say it was my first instrument.
Okay. So you graduated from the bass to the guitar?
I did, yeah. I'd always want. I was a bass player for the reason that many people are bass players, which is their more aggressive friend got to be the guitar player.
Sure.
You know? Like there was one friend that wanted to play drums, and then there was like the super aggressive guy who was like, no, I'm going to be the guitar player. And then you can play bass. And so that's how I ended up on bass. But I always wanted to be a guy who writes his own songs. So
was the first bands you were in, were you a bass player or guitar player?
Yeah, first bands I was in. I mean, we were so terrible. I mean, it was just like it's hard to think of them as being in bands because they were so bad. They were you know, literally like if I could get away with not, you know, fretting any strings, I was very happy.
And would you guys play out? Were they like high school friends of yours? Like
yeah. And you know, we played like the snack bar at where I went to boarding school, and you know, the weird little arts center, and you know, just kind of the dumb places where you dig up gigs, a couple of basements, you know, but I don't think anyone ever enjoyed anything we did ever.
Okay. Was it original songs or are they all covers?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't figure out other people's songs, so I had to write my own. This true story. Like I you know, I was just bad at learning stuff. So I just started writing straight away. Just started, you know, and by writing, I mean like playing one string and yelping along, and then eventually, you know, fretting the fifth fret or, you know, the minor third, and continuing to yelp along, but just very, very basic stuff, you know, thrown together in an attempt to play music because I, you know, couldn't learn stuff.
Do you think that helped your songwriting?
Oh yeah.
Because you didn't have any influences or any other chord progressions that you were really messing with.
No, I remember a guy sat me down and he was like, "It's important that you learn a blues riff." Like he was really like, "Sit down. I'm going to teach you this." Like I don't know, like he was sick of me, banging around with my, chaotic buffoonery. That's the one time I could remember actually learning something. And then the blues scale.
Okay.
Which I learned from Rock School. You're probably too young to remember Rock School.
I don't remember Rock School.
Yeah,
No.
it was on in like the early 80s. It was a BBC show, like showing people the basics of, like one episode was reggae and the other one was funk, and it was, just
That's
like
cool.
Yeah, it was super cool.
Just exposing you to that music, or were they showing you how to play
No,
stuff?
they were showing you how to play stuff. There was a guitar player, a bass player, and a drummer, and they would show you the very basic patterns. And I learned the blues scale, and that was like everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy from a television show. I mean, nowadays it's all YouTube, but that's
from Rock School.
Yeah, that's crazy. Wow. And then from there, like said you're in that band playing bass, but you're writing the songs?
Yes. I mean, again, like it feels like dignifying it unnecessarily when I, say anything like I wrote the songs.
Right. Well, then was Soul Coughing kind of the first?
No. By that time, I kind of figured out what I was doing. I was playing a lot of like folk gigs. Had a Yamaha acoustic. Was
just
doing
solo. Solo stuff. Okay.
Well, I mean, gigs, like mostly open mics.
Oh, okay.
Like the Chameleon and the anti-folk scene, which was a whole vibe. And Blatch, the guy who invented it, he moved to Edinburgh a couple of years ago, but he started in like 84 and went to 2009. They went after them. Yeah. And anybody that is an acoustic player that came out of the East Coast, they have all been through there. Like Lisa Loeb went through there. Beck went through there.
Interesting.
The Peaches went through there. Regina Spektor went through there. Pretty much anybody. Not that I was in the room with all these famous people, but
yeah, you still learned.
Yeah, anybody who was known for being an acoustic player, just name them. They, if they were around before 2005 and after 1984, they definitely played one of Latch's open mic nights.
That's cool. So he called the open mic night the anti-folk?
Yeah, it was the anti-folk boot is what it was called.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and it was, like people who played, just sort of power chords, punk rock stuff, and it was great. It was super fun. It taught me a lot about just being on stage and how to be different from other people getting up on stage. And then I worked at a jazz club, the Knitting Factory.
Oh, the one in New York?
Yeah, the one.
Oh, wow.
So in the 90s, it was like a jazz club, like an experimental jazz club, and it became
interesting.
Yeah, it was like the sort of John Zorn, Mark Rebo, M-Bass went through there, like all kinds of Fred Frith, Yamatsuka Ai, like all those guys were like the core of the scene around that club. And I just got to know a lot about playing music, about the life of playing music, about what it is to approach a song, that you should approach a song as a template, not something to be reproduced, but to be like improvised within. And all the stuff that I didn't have the skills, as a player to really do, but just in terms of the mindset and the spirit of it, that's kind of where I learned how to be in a band, how to run a band, how to do arrangements, how to work with other musicians.
Yeah, I mean, jazz is like the
Yeah, oh
it's
yeah.
pretty much the hardest of music, right?
And this was like experimental, improvised, very weird sounding. And then I was going to hip hop clubs at night.
Oh, okay.
And house clubs, like 1990, 91 vibes. It was just a really interesting time in dance music and rap music. So there were a lot of threads. It was kind of the right place to be for me.
And what was your job at the knitting factory? Were you like
I was the doorman.
Oh, you were? Okay.
I worked 7 nights a week.
Oh my God.
7. I can't believe that I never complained. Like I never was like you guys got to get somebody else for something. Right. It never occurred to me that like I was allowed to complain. I was just thankful to be making $36 a night.
Were they open every night? Like just like
every night.
Okay, so it wasn't like if there was a show, then it was open. It was just always open.
There was some jazz something or other going on every night, and then there'd be like indie rock bands on the weekends, hardcore bands sometimes, ska shows and stuff like that, like stuff to pay the rent.
Sure.
But most of it was like Charles Gale trio playing for the same 20 people every Monday, every week, and me sitting downstairs at the door listening and talking to whoever I could.
Yeah. So you probably made pretty good friends with all these bands and these musicians that are coming through like on a weekly basis?
I did. I mean, just in terms of being able to relate to somebody with real training. Because I had no training, but the people used to come down and hang out at the ticket desk because it was kind of oversized and people treated it as it was as if it were a bar. So people, then there were musicians coming in just to see their friends play. It was this little scene. And so somebody that was playing and somebody that was just hanging out and then somebody else, they'd all be like drinking at my desk. Now. Yeah, and so like I just picked up so much just you're eavesdropping.
Right. Wow. And were you all along? Were you still playing open mics and stuff and doing solo?
Yeah, I mean I was just desperately trying to get club gigs and sending out demo tapes and like calling CBGB like 5 days a week, and their booker was the meanest lady in the music world in New York. Her name
kind of makes sense for that place. I would just assume it would be some mean lady.
I mean, now you realize like, oh my God, the kind of calls she must have been getting, and she must have been getting the worst bands coming at her like 24 hours a day. Oh, but you call her and you'd be like, oh hey, this is M. Doughty from Soul Coughing. And she'd be like, call me next week at 5, click. And, and then you'd call us and be like, call me on Tuesday at 4, but call me at this number, blah, blah, blah. And it would be a different number. And just chase around until one day she was like, Sunday, 7 o'clock, and I had a gig.
Wow. And you got to play CBGB's at solo.
I did. Well, solo and with Soul Coughing. Okay. And with other bands.
Other bands.
Yeah, and I mean, Soul Coughing, the first version of Soul Coughing only had me in it in terms of people that were eventually in Soul Coughing, but it wasn't Soul Coughing.
Yeah, but that's crazy. I mean, to just sit there and cold call and like finally get that slot, that must have been a huge day for you.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's what everyone was doing, was constantly, calling all these clubs, sending tapes out, and it was so expensive, and you had to rent rehearsal space by the hour.
Oh yeah, I can't imagine that.
Such a small amount of space in that city in general. So yeah, it was a grind, man. I was on the grind.
Well, then did Soul Coughing form pretty shortly after that?
Yeah, well, I was asking people who played the Knitting Factory who weren't like famous or, you know, needed to get paid a bunch of money. I was just asking them to play these gigs of mine. And eventually I started getting gigs at the Knitting Factory, and I would get the ones that I would get like Tuesday at 11 p.m.
Okay.
So nobody wanted, and there's nothing going to be there in there anyway. So they're just like, fine, here's Tuesday at 11. And then I would madly go around asking people to do this for me. And eventually, yeah, I ended up with those 3 guys.
Oh, and it was all just because it's kind of started off with just your solo thing, and you're just gating people to just be players.
Yeah, well, it was, I mean, for a couple of years, I called it Soul Coughing. That was just the name that I was operating under.
Okay.
Until eventually I got Soul Coughing together.
Wow. And then you eventually get signed to Slash Records,
yep, which
is a part of Warner. Tell me about, how did that all happen? Did you already have Ruby Room recorded before that?
No, we had, I mean, a lot of it was written. A lot of, I mean, about 3/4 of what was on Ruby Room was stuff that I'd just been playing in different ways with solo or with other bands, or like True Dreams of Wichita I wrote in like 1990 or something.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I'd been hacking that out on acoustic guitar for years. Janine, to a couple other ones. And then the remaining ones sort of came from jams. But it all been written. We were doing a nightly residency at CB's 313, which is the gallery space next door, which they tried to make into like their jazz space. And
okay.
It was a great space, actually, looking back on it. But we had a weekly, like Sunday night, maybe it was. And then we met a guy who wanted to make a video, and he was just some dude. I had no idea what became of him. Wanted to make Soul Coughing video. And he was like, all right, I can do it for the low price of $5,000. Oh my God. I was like, you're dreaming. Like, if there's anybody that doesn't have $5,000, like, you know, I eat at McDonald's once a day. Like, that's, you know, I smoke a pack of cigarettes and a dime bag of weed, and that's all the money I have.
Yeah, right.
Literally, quite literally. And so he was like, well, I'll get you a record deal. And I was like, yeah, sure, buddy. Go ahead. That's great.
Yeah, like, it's no big deal. Oh, don't worry about the $5,000. I'll get you a record deal.
And he started calling record companies and just persuaded them to come see us at CB's Gallery. And so one night there were like 10 record companies there.
Wow.
And it was insane. Yeah, it was absolutely like, what do you, like, just out of nowhere, because this guy was like, you know, obviously, like, he was hustling me like, I can do this. It's going to be the best ever. It's only $5,000.
Right.
So he's calling these labels going, this band is the greatest band in the world, and you got to see him, and no matter what, you got to blah, blah, blah. So we hustled him down. And then ironically, who we eventually signed with was somebody that just the guy from Slash wandered in to 313 because he couldn't get into a Blues Explosion show next door at CBGB. Like, it was too crowded. And so he was just like, fuck it, I want to take a break. So he came inside and saw us, and he signed us.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so you had a bunch of other labels there that were, you know, this guy gets there, and then the person that ends up signing you.
And I'll never forget a woman named Kate Hyman that worked at a label called Imago at the time. Mm-hmm. Everyone had heard of her for some reason. She was like the person that, you know, the hipsters knew, had signed bands and stuff. So people like knew her name. Mm-hmm. And she came up to me at that gig where the 10 A&R people came, and she was like, hi, I'm Kate Hyman from Imago. And I, just being like a total punk, I was like, so you want to put up my record? And she goes, yeah. like, what? That was, I mean, it was so crazy after like years and years and years of pounding my head against the dirt, you know, just often like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's do it.
That's crazy. Oh my gosh. So then you ended up signing with Slash Records.
We ended up signing with Slash. You know, we got taken out for, you know, the 90s. There was a lot of money. They would
Oh yeah,
dinner and
a lot of wine and dines.
pension on you. Yeah, we almost signed to Columbia, which is awesome that we didn't, because we would have died at Columbia.
Why do you say that? Just they just had too much going on.
They were like a cutthroat label, and they weren't interested in weird.
Okay.
And I think they were just trying to be nice to the guy who wanted to sign us there.
Oh sure.
You know, and so they had Mercury Revs, sorry, which was a pretty weird band for the time, an acclaimed band at the time. So there wasn't like no context for them having a band like Soul Coughing.
Mm-hmm.
But Columbia Atlantic Records, they were in the mix, and then Warner Brothers and Slash.
Wow.
And then we went with Slash.
So you signed a Slash, and then did you go record Ruby's Room?
Yeah, we went, we looked around for producers, met with a bunch of different people. Eventually met with Chad Blake, who we knew because he made Kiko by Los Lobos.
Oh, okay.
Mitchell Froome produced it. And that record is one of the most incredible sounding albums of that time, of all time. Just a masterfully recorded album. And we had met all these producers that were very sort of philosophical about, you know, how the process and what goes into arrangements and all that stuff. And he was just like, clearly just like a maverick artist. And he just had a way he put microphones up and a way he did stuff that was very experimental and interesting. And so he was very much our vibe. So he's the guy we just gravitated to. We sat in Jaffa, this cafe on St. Mark's Place, after the gig that he came to see. Mm-hmm. And they put on an old Trojan Records, like Rocksteady compilation. Mm-hmm. And you know, they're really, those really like scratchy, tinny sounding records that are like, they kind of speed up, slow down.
Oh, sure.
Kind of out of tune and weird about them.
Yeah.
And I just sort of said, just rhetorically, I was like, how do they make an album? How do they make a song sound like that? And Chad said, I think they make like 4 albums in a day. And I was like, you're my guy. You're my guy. Like that sounds like a good idea to you, is you're my guy. Like I want to hang out with you.
Yeah. Did he end up producing all 3 of your records on Soul Coughing? Was Soul Coughing?
No, he was going to do the Irresistible Bliss, but then his wife died. And so he dropped out. His wife died very unexpectedly in an accident. Mm-hmm. And he just dropped out of everything for a couple of years and, you know, sort of wandered the earth and grieved and had his process. And so we ended up with a guy called David Kahn, who I was a huge fan of.
Okay.
And he is known for Sublime, Sugar Ray, Presidents of the United States of America, and a bunch of other things that were like alternative records, kind of funky records that got super big around that time in the mid 90s. And I was like convinced that he could make a real hit record for us. If you listen to productions, even like Sugar Ray songs that he did, you can locate something in those songs that sounds really strange. Like there's something that's like out of tune or kind of rickety or not quite square in there. So he had like a really advanced mindset artistically, but he was a guy that made records that sold millions of records, and my band just fucking hated him, and they just hated him, and he was not,
just working with him, or just before you even got him.
I wouldn't put it, let's say working with them.
Okay. I didn't know if they knew of him and were like, I don't like his records.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knew of him. He was like,
Okay.
he was like the dude.
The guy, yeah, okay.
Big deal guy. And he was not somebody who like, you know, held the drummer's hand and made them feel better about what they were doing.
Okay.
You know, he was like, do this, and that's not good, and this is good, and very, very matter of fact. You know, he was a pop producer in the sense that he was like, where's the vocal on this? It's all about the vocal, the song, the vocal. Which, and it was a very musicianly band. People didn't like that very much. And he just kind of, he kind of got in his own way by not being more solicitous. But, you know, that is, those days in 1995 are the difference between Soul Coughing being a cult band and being Sublime, you know. And it's pretty simple what makes something a radio record, and it's the sound of the snare drum, it's the relationship of the bass to the kick drum, it's the way you mix the vocal, it's about sort of how the other pieces fit with the vocal and the rhythm section, and you need a brilliant mixer that at the time mixed in mono, because everybody was listening to everything through a TV speaker. It was all about MTV. So the people who made big records were good at mono
mix.
Like just a little tiny speaker, the orange, like that's what they mixed for. And had he gotten his chance, I think, you know, we'd all own very nice houses at this point, but it was not to be. And you know, it's a weird thing to think back to.
Well, you did have I mean, Super Bon Bon was a big hit for you guys.
But not really. I mean, it's certainly like, I'm very happy to have the life that I have now where I just make all the music I want to make, and Circles and Super Bon Bon kind of underwrite it all. But in terms of like a big, like Beck-sized record,
sure,
you know, that we definitely had the chance. We definitely were in the spot where we could have done that, and that just was anathema to my bandmates. And we were a band, and you know, it was a collaboration, and you know, that's not what they wanted to do.
Sure. Well, I mean, having Super Bon Bon, I mean, that became a hit, and so I'm sure you obviously, from the first album, Ruby Vroom, to the next record, I mean, it sounds like you had a pretty significant jump, though, with, I mean, Super Bon Bon, I remember seeing it on MTV and having like radio success.
I mean, no, I mean, there's no, you know, it definitely was pretty undeniable, the bass line and that vocal phrase.
Sure.
You know, the chorus, you know, was undeniable. As a point of fact, though, we only had one hit in technical terms. It was Circles, and it got to number 38 on the Billboard Top 40.
Okay.
So
I mean, that's still top 40. Dude, yeah.
Dude, I love it. I love it.
You're like downplaying it. I'm like, wait a minute. Top 40, dude.
Absolutely love. And I love that, like, you know, people will, like, you know, say snarky things about somebody being a one-hit wonder or something, and I'm like, listen, you know what most people are? They are no-hit wonders.
Yep. I mean, exactly.
So, let me take it from a one-hit wonder. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I wouldn't say you're a one-hit wonder by any means.
No. But in the technical sense, Billboard Top 40.
If you look at it, okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'll cling to that. I just love the poetry of, you know, I'm a one-hit wonder. We got to number 38 for 1 week in 1998, and there you go.
That's crazy.
And who knows? Maybe I'll get there again, and I'll be a two-hit one. Maybe I'll get to number 36.
Well, your new song that that you just released is a hit. I'll tell you right now. I love it. It's so just takes me back to I love that you describe it as this band gets an unusual number of comparisons to Soul Coughing.
Yeah, that's the capsule vibe. Well, I mean, what happened was I essentially wrote a Soul Coughing album and called them up and asked if they wanted to do it, and they did not. Which was it was very weird. It's just everything with Soul Coughing is so much weirder than it has to be. It just is like the conversations are just nuts. So I was like, okay, fine. And me and Scrap Livingston, my bass player, we decided to be a band, called ourselves Ghost of Room, which is a working title for a dub version of Ruby Vroom that we never made. So
okay, I was gonna ask. There had to be some throwback to the first record.
That was Connection. We did it with Mario Caldato, who the Beasties guy.
Oh wow!
Who, was a guy that I wanted to work with in the '90s and never got the chance. And so we went in August of last year and made a full album, and then the pandemic happened, and my manager called me up and was like, "Don't put this out. Like, don't wait." And it was like, oh, but you gotta go play shows behind it. But then I wrote this, the 3-song EP. It was obviously of the moment, about the moment.
Sure, the song I've heard is it's
and the other 2 songs are same vibe and actually much darker. Really, it's kind of the vector of the unrest and the craziness, in the culture and the pandemic.
I can't wait to hear it because this one is really good. I mean, the lyrics it's awesome.
So glad you like it.
Yeah.
I mean, I called him up and I was like, guess what? I'm putting out an album next month, an EP next month, and he was like, all right, fine. But yeah, that is the reason why it's called Ghost of Room 2. Because
okay, I was going to ask you about that too.
Yeah, Ghost of Room 1 should be out in 2021.
So that's ready. It's
ready. The cover art is done. It's ready to go.
Well, are you going to release that under Ghost of Room as well, though?
Yeah, Ghost of Room is a band.
Okay.
It's me and Scrap.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah, and so it's whatever we choose to do. It's very much about our particular vibe and the partnership. And I wish you could be interviewing him at the same time because he is a fascinating and hilarious individual.
I wasn't sure if I was going to get both of you guys or just you.
I should have, because I've been doing mostly phone interviews for this, and I should have had the foresight to think like, oh, we could have Scrap.
No, it's all good. We'll do another one when the next record comes out.
Yes, indeed.
We'll get him on that one.
Wow, but the next one might be Ghost of Room 3. I might like better.
There might be something with you.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Well, okay. So this started as a Soul Coughing record, or what you hope to be a Soul Coughing record. That doesn't work out, and then what you've released so far, the first song, and then the next 2 are all songs that you wrote and recorded while we're in the pandemic.
Yeah,
wow.
So I have a Patreon. I write a new song every week.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, totally new song, written, recorded, obviously all in this room. And it's just a great practice. It's made me a better songwriter having a weekly deadline. It's a very kind of 60s vibe where you do a single, as opposed to like putting an album together. So I love it. But then the ambient things in the world got into me, and I wrote some things that were really good that expressed this. And so I got Scrap to record at home. He's plugged into his computer. Our drummer, Lil Pepper, or Madden Class is her real name.
Okay.
She records in her parents' basement. She's got a drum kit. I did the guitar and the keyboards and the samples and the funny noises and stuff, and the vocals, obviously. And we sent it to Mario, who turned it into a record. And
wow.
so yeah, it was all done from afar, and like I couldn't be happier with how it sounds. Like yeah,
that's crazy. I mean, it sounds awesome. The song I've heard, and that's crazy that that was all recorded in 3 different locations.
Yeah, and
I mean,
Scratch
pretty
doesn't
much
even have a very good mic. Like, his recording situation is really basic, and and I'm not an engineer either, by the way.
Well, I was gonna say, and then you have live drums that was recorded by one person. Like, that's crazy.
And not looped. Like you know, she actually put on the headphones with a click track and did the song.
Whoa.
Multi-track the song. Yeah, it's real. Yeah.
So did you like have a version of it, like a scratch track version, and say, hey, okay, here's the song, like what can you do to that, like drums wise and bass wise?
Yeah, I mean, so Lil Pepper can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So the beat I found, I've been going through a lot of old break beats. You know, there's the Scarface Beats and Breaks album from the early 90s, had like all the break beats on it. It was totally illegal. They sample all this stuff without asking.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Like that. Like
I remember those records.
Yes. It's a break beat from that world that she altered a little bit and replayed. And then we had to figure out like a key to make the bass sound its best, particularly, you know, the way you record it. You know, if you're doing like a direct line into a, you know, cheap little MIDI and a DAW interface, you know, not everything sounds great. And then so I got those 2 and then did everything else on top of it. So it was like piece by piece. Oh, and there's a guitar player named Logan Hanna who plays on the next 2 songs, and he came over and sat like over there on the far side of the room, and I sat over there at the computer, and we had masks on, and I just left a cable out there going into the computer, and you know he
came and tracked.
He came and tracked, yeah, and he was done in like 15 minutes. It was like I sang the song, and you know he just went wild, and I went and picking and choosing through the tracks that he did for his part.
That's cool. So all the 3 songs that are going to be out on this EP were all done the same way. All done live drums, and aside from him coming into your house to record the one guitar part. But wow. And then
mixed remotely too. I mean, it wouldn't be what it is if it didn't have a genius mixer like Mario making things sound good. I mean, just making things sound alive.
And with this record, I mean, it was obviously where no one's playing right now live, but once that all lets up, is this going to be something that you're going to bring, you know, everybody on the road and play proper shows and stuff?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That is absolutely my intention.
Okay. So this is going to be like your full thing. Cause I know you still do your solo stuff. Is that still going to be a thing? And
I do. Yeah. I'll probably still do some of those. I'm way more interested in this band right now. And so I'm going to do everything I can to be focused on this stuff. You know? I would love to just make this the center of my life.
Yeah,
you know?
That's exciting. I mean, I really, really like the song. When I first heard it, I was like, whoa, this like totally took me back to the early Soul Coughing records. I was like, whoa.
I started writing bass lines on my phone, you know, just on GarageBand.
Oh, okay.
And so the only bass sound that I liked was the upright bass. You know, so I'm like, oh, this is a Fender Precision. I don't like how it sounds. This is synth bass. I don't like how it sounds. Upright bass, it sounds pretty good. So I just ended up writing all these upright bass lines because that was the only good bass sound on the phone.
Yeah, that was the best one.
Yeah, so I had all these bass lines, started going back, just got interested in those break beats, started listening to those, started playing the sampler, just got interested in finding samples and manipulating samples, and then got into the rapping thing. There's people in the hip hop world that I'm friends with here in Memphis and just other people around the world, that sort of all those things kind of came at the same moment. All those threads sort of found their way into becoming a knot at the same time.
That's awesome. That's really, I can't wait to hear the other two songs, especially you said they're dark songs.
They're dark.
Okay. And they're all about this current climate, I guess. In this,
they're about rioting, unrest, this invisible plague, the undercurrent of conspiratorial insanity that's everywhere in the culture these days. You know, significantly on the right, but not insignificantly on the left.
Yeah, I know. It's
like I have been having conversations with people about like, oh, isn't it weird? Like all this crazy stuff that, you know, this person on the right is saying, and they'll be like, yeah, and you know, there's a CIA agent that blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, no. please. Like, you know, and there's just this level of crazy going on that is terrifying, but of course is exactly in my wheelhouse as an artist and what I'm interested in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know if you know the Soul Coughing song on the X-Files soundtrack.
Oh yeah. I forgot that you did that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That was very much. So the people of the X-Files loved that song because the lyrics were all about all the stuff that was, you know, kind of in the zeitgeist around the millennium of like that kind of conspiracy, that kind of like UFO ghostly darkness. And it's not the same thing now, but there is a similar level of unreality and, you know, questioning of very basic aspects of, you know, what can be agreed upon to be real in America. And so that's a similarity in my
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to hear this record. I'm super excited. Just that first song, like I said, you did a great job of like really encompassing everything that's going on right now, especially with the pandemic. I mean, I can imagine, was that kind of a hard lane to drive in? I mean,
it just popped right out. It's
okay.
Just, you know, like I've written like a handful of topical things in my life, political songs, you know, current event songs, whatever. And they've all just popped right out.
Okay.
You know, and I don't know why it's not something that I consider to be like a go-to, you know, what's going on in the world today, how can I make a song about it?
Sure.
But when it does happen, it's always fast.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I was just curious, cause you'd think, I don't know, it's kind of it's like an uncertainty still to it. Like we don't really know what's going on with it. And like, you know, it might be like a hot button, you know, topic, but that's, like I said, you did a great job of explaining what's happening. Cause I'm sure if there's probably going to be a bunch of songs that don't quite hit the mark on this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's sort of this like bouncy summer jam kind of a vibe as a tune and like the sing-song chorus, but it's about like incredible uncertainty and this kind of like surreal environment of the invisible menace. And that's just something I really like is, you know, having a chorus that sounds like kind of happy and peppy and like a good vibe, groovy vibe in the song, and then putting something super dark, like right in the heart of it.
Yeah, I love the lyric where you talk about like the stimulus checks and like all these things, and I'm like, oh my god, like he's hitting every piece of this.
No, it's not the only song on the EP with the word stimulus check in it either.
Okay, that's awesome. Have you had a chance to? I mean, obviously, you haven't had a chance to play these live out to a crowd of people, but what about like on Instagram or Facebook? Have you done any of those?
Not yet. I did not. I mean, basically, the long story short, I got to figure out how to do it because I think Rona Polona, I have an idea of how I do it solo acoustic. The other ones are going to be more difficult to translate, but you know, I mean, clearly in this day and age, I'm going to be doing a lot of playing on Zoom. So
You're right.
I better hop to it, you know.
Have you had a chance to watch anyone else's, and do you enjoy them? Like, how do you feel about it?
Oh well, I do online shows all the time.
Oh yeah, because you have your Patreon.
Yeah.
He's just performing these ones that are going to be weird.
Not just on Patreon, but I have, you know, I got another phone for the purpose of it, and I put there's Velcro on the back of the phones, and I stick them on a thing and just play an acoustic set.
Oh, cool.
Right here, and I do it like probably like 10 times a month, 12 times a month. You know, not at a set time.
Okay.
8 in the morning, 7 at night, just, you know,
whenever you feel it.
Whenever strikes me. And yeah, I'm not trying to sell tickets to it.
Mm-hmm.
I encourage people to join the Patreon if they're able to, if they feel like it. But playing live on as a guy who's been playing solo for 20 years, it's not that hard, you know. Like,
yeah.
It's really, you know, not that complicated.
But I mean, did you like when you go live on there, is it strange? Like you finish and then there's like no applause, or like I don't know how that would be.
It's not. Well, I've been doing it for a long time. I mean, I like long before the pandemic, years ago.
Oh, you were streaming already. Okay.
I've always been doing this like for a couple of years.
Okay.
And you know, you just gotta fill the space with banter.
Mm-hmm.
People leave applause emojis in the comments, which you know, that's something. But it's not that weird. It doesn't feel that weird to me. It's honestly like it is a way better way of rehearsing. As I found, like long before the pandemic, you know, if I had to go out and play some shows and I needed to get warmed up, you're essentially playing a concert. You're just doing it in your house, and you know, you don't have to change clothes, and you know, you could do it with your morning coffee. But there's a real audience there, so it feels like there's stakes. You know, it feels realer than just, you know, just playing into the air.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there is some sort of interaction there.
Yeah, there's like
commenting and stuff.
A few hundred people watching. So
yeah. I mean, I can't wait to hear the record. Hopefully this will all lift up sooner than later and you'll be able to tour it. I want to see this band live so bad. I saw you by, you know, I think, well, when I saw you were doing,
was it the Ruby Vroom tour?
Yes, you did Ruby Vroom in its entirety. Okay.
Yep.
I was going to say, I remember you played in a record in full, but then, yeah, it was definitely that one. And then you played with Wheatus. So hopefully you'll be able to come back here to San Diego soon.
Yeah, do Ghost of Room in full.
I would love to see that. Very, very cool. Well, Mike, I have one more question for you. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
I think it's the word that I kind of loathe that you hear a lot is brand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, so essentially what I'm saying is know what your brand is, have an idea of what your brand is, but I hate that. So I would say know what your persona is, know what your style is, have like parameters for yourself, and look at the world and see what there isn't a whole lot of. You know, like if it's a neat world, maybe you should be the dirty person, or if it's a chaotic world, maybe you should be the organized one. Just find your place, find what your voice is, try and be the truest version of yourself. And the other thing is steal. And I know everyone says this, but just steal, and worry about it later. And chances are if you ever meet the person you stole from, they will tell you that they stole it too.
Bringing it backward.